theyeshiva.net.
Okay, good morning everybody. Afreilich and Purim Cotton to one and all. Toiv Lev Mishta Tamid, page 240. The second column. Torah Oir, Hesafis Megillah Esther, Kuf Chaf Amud Dalet, Kuf Chaf column 4, page 240, the second column, a few lines before Siv Ches. A few lines before the 8th, Perik Ches, Eis Ches. A few lines before. Line starts, Afagav Diulei Chazi, Mazli Lamayla Chazi. Like 4 lines before the beginning of chapter 8, Eis Ches. V'zehu, Sha'amra Knesses Yisrael. This is the meaning of something the Jewish people say to Hashem. In Shir Hashirim, there's an expression, Simeini kechoisam al libecha. Place me like a seal on your heart. Simeini, place me, kechoisam al libecha. Like a seal on your heart. What is the meaning of this? For Amru b'Zohar HaKadosh. So on this pasuk there's an interpretation in Zohar. This is in Zohar in 2 places, in Parshas Vayikach and in Parshas Mishpatim, that the emphasis here is kechoisam. Simeini kechoisam al libecha. I'm asking you that the relationship should be like a choisam, a seal. Why? Says the Zohar, the afal gav the azil hacha v'hacha, the yukna ishtoyer b'cha. Even though you go here and you go there, the yukna, the imprint, the visage, the image of the seal remains in you forever. The Zohar explains there, what's the novelty of a choisam? What's the chiddush of a seal? When you imprint the seal, the choisam, we spoke yesterday about the tabas, on something, on a document, etc., the seal itself is gone, doesn't remain there. But its imprint remains fixed. So, Simeini kechoisam al libecha, says the Zohar, that sometimes a Jew asks Hashem and says, I want your seal to be on my heart. The choisam, the seal of elikus, of truth, of godliness, of infinity, should be on my heart. What does that mean? I may go here, I may go there. There may be what's called a form of detachment, because the choisam is gone. The choisam, the seal, doesn't remain there. But the imprint remains forever. Simeini kechoisam, the yukna ishtoyer b'chala olam, in the words of the Zohar. Azal hacha v'hacha. A person goes in many different directions, but there's the yukn, the imprint of the seal, choisam, that remains fixed forever. And it's also the other way. Simeini kechoisam al libecha. Place me like a seal on your heart, so that the relationship always remains. Pirush, the yukni hainu oisius hachoisam. The word the yukni in Zohar means the letters of the seal, like the signature. The signet that is imprinted, that's the yukni, the oisius hachoisam. Sheboi nisha rishimu, mebchinas pnimiyis ve'ikir haratzah. And there you have the residue, a rosham, an imprint, the residue, the leftover, not the leftover, a rosham, an imprint of the pnimius, of the core of the ratzon, that was coming out in the seal. Like we learned, that Achashverosh said that Ksav asher nechta v'nechta b'tabas hamelech ein lahashav. I can't retract a document, an edict, that has the choisam, the seal that comes from the tabas, that comes from the ring of the king, the signet of the king. Why? Because the signature, the notarized signature, sealed, represents your conviction, your will, your testimony. What we're calling here in spiritual language, your pnimius haratzon. It's just a seal, it's just a few letters, Reuven ben Yaakov, or whatever your name is. But nonetheless, those letters capture, they embody the soul, the desire, the ratzon of the king over the person signing. And even though the seal is already gone, but its imprint remains fixed forever. And that's the nekuda of a Jew. That even though Haman tries to get the ring of the king, but ultimately it goes over to Mordechai. Mordechai gets it. So as the Balatanya explained, what's the idea that Mordechai gets it? That Knesset Yisrael is Dovuk. It's linked essentially with Atzmos Alakus, with the essence of the Ein Sof. And this is what he said, you see this, that with all the pleasures in the world, there's the void that remains unfulfilled. Why? It comes from this chaysim. So afal gav the azal hachavah, you go here and there, you're not anymore part of the chaysim. It would seem like, and this is the great chiddush of the Zohar, that you're detached. Meilev, the seal remains on you, so you remain connected. But the seal has touched you and then it's gone. But once it touched you, it's never gone. Because it remains entrenched, ingrained in your very essence, in your very core, and therefore ultimately you're going to come back to this.
Isn't there a problem with the chasm also? It helps to give chiyuvus against someone that is...
Indeed. That's why it could be such a powerful testimony. Right.
Where does it come from? From birth? It's speaking about from birth. The Ian has it?
Yeah.
In his birth.
Zalman was from Parshas.
Yeah. So he may turn here and may turn there and may run here and may run there and look for this and looks for that. And it's all part of that void that he or she is trying to fulfill. But until the person doesn't find that chaysim, until the person doesn't find the true yearning, what the void really is about, so all of the comforts and all of the treasures that the person may come across and all of the distractions ultimately will not fill that empty space in the heart which feels vacant, because deeper than everything there's a ratzon that he has to address. And that's the pnimiyus haratzon of Hashem that's in him. The chaysim of Elikus, the Ein Sof, the infinity that he's looking for, that he wants to touch, that he wants to connect to.
So at one point that void had to be filled, right?
There's a parable that was given for this concept by Reb Hillel of Parich. Reb Hillel of Parich. Parich is a city in the Ukraine, I think, right? And Reb Hillel was a chassid of the Balatanya and of his son, the Mittler Rebbe, and his grandson, the Tzemach Tzedek. He once gave, they say, a mashal from him. That there was a person who was very musical. He had a tremendous chush, a tremendous sensitivity for negina, for music, for song. And when he heard a song, it touched him deeply. People who are sensitive to niggin, it can transport you. Music can transport you to a different world. You could melt in the music, so to speak. So this Jew, this person, he once heard a song. He heard somebody singing a song. And the song just triggered such profound experiences and emotions and awareness in him. It transfixed him. And he took the song with him. And he vowed to himself that he's going to remember it forever. But alas, he forgot the song. And it drove him insane. He was yearning to reclaim that song, because the song, Mamish, touched him in his deepest core. And he started to travel to all the possible places where he might have heard the song. And he asked people to sing songs to him, because he wanted to hear that song. And whoever was capable of singing the song, and even people who weren't capable of singing, he went to every concert and every symphony, every concerto and every performance, and every opera, and every cantorial presentation, in order to be able to maybe hear that song. And he spent money and paid singers and composers and musicians. And he heard a lot of beautiful songs, some not such beautiful songs. And even though he forgot the original song, but he knew that the songs that he's hearing is not that song. They didn't touch him in the same way. You know, you could forget a song, but you know that you're not hearing it. And he searched and searched and searched to find that song. And people were singing. They said, "Was willst du?" He said, "It's a song, but it's not that song. It's not my song." So he said that the neshama, the soul, has a chaisam. It has a seal. Simeni ke chaisam alibecha. It has a song. It has a niggin. It heard this song, and it's the soul's niggin. That's my niggin. You come into the world, and the soul is looking for the niggin, and it travels everywhere to hear that niggin, and it pays money, and it buys these toys, and it buys other toys, and it travels to interesting places, and meets interesting people, and discovers interesting things. But really, I'm looking for the niggin. So I finish with this, I get bored of this, next. I'm looking for that song. And you hear a lot of songs. Some songs are nice, some songs are lousy. Likutei Maharan, there's an expression that everything has a niggin. Everything in the world, even every blade of grass has a niggin, every shrub has a niggin, every tree has a niggin. So it works well with it.
Is each person's chosim different?
There is a nekuda that's identical by every Jew, but of course there is the individual neshama as well. But it's that niggin, I'm looking for that niggin. And then when you hear the niggin, you know that's the niggin. That's the song. There's an explanation from the Chidush Harim. It says in Shlomo Melech says, "Shma b'ni Mussar avicha, va'al titosh Torah simecha." Right, listen, my son, to the Mussar of your father, and don't let go from the Torah of your mother. So here it says Mussar, and here it says Torah. Right, so the father gives Mussar, and the mother teaches. The mother gives Torah. But a more important difference here it says Shma b'ni Mussar avicha. Listen to the Mussar of your father, va'al titosh, and don't abandon Torah simecha. Where it could have said Shma b'ni Mussar avicha and Shma b'ni Mussar imecha, or Shma b'ni Mussar avicha v'imecha, which would have been more logical. So you could say it's just, for the poetry, for the prose, but in Tanakh every pasuk obviously is precise and meticulous. So the pshat is, it's brought in Sifrei Chassidus, that there's two sources of information. There's two sources of Torah. There's Shma b'ni Mussar avicha. There's the Torah you hear from your father. A good father is supposed to educate his children in a loving and nurturing and meaningful way, with discipline but mostly love. So it's Mussar avicha. But then there's another Torah. Va'al titosh Torah simecha. This Torah doesn't have to be taught to you. It was already taught to you. Because the Gemara says in Nida, daf lamed, tinek b'mei imay melamdenoi sekala Torah kula. That a child, a fetus in the womb of its mother, learns the whole Torah. So already, in the pre-verbal self, in the pre-self-conceptualized self, when the embryo is beginning to form and the fetus is beginning to develop, there is the simeni kechoisem alibecha. There is the Torah that's ingrained, entrenched in the psyche and the soul of the child. So this you don't have to have al titosh Torah simecha. This is the Torah of your mother. This is the Torah that comes from your mother. In the womb of your mother, it came into you. And therefore, throughout your life, you'll hear a lot of things. You'll hear a lot of things. If it's real Torah, it'll resonate, because you already heard it. If it's real Torah, you already heard it. It resonates deep inside, because the yukne ishtar b'chalalim, it's going to resonate. In many ways, how do you know you're hearing Torah? How do you know it's real Torah? How do you know? You go to a shiur, yeah? Or you read, how do you know it's real Torah? How do you know it's real Torah? The answer is you knew it already. You knew it already. It doesn't mean you knew all the information, obviously not, but it means you knew it already. It resonates in a very deep place. The depth of the soul. Now, this doesn't mean it doesn't challenge you. It may challenge me. It may challenge me very deeply. It's good if it challenges me. But it doesn't challenge me in a way that it turns me into another person who I'm not. It's not information that uproots me from myself and turns me into some zombie. Then you got to be very careful. You have to be very careful. It in the deepest place, it resonates. Yeah. It may challenge me because that deep place may be very concealed and repressed. But if I'm hearing new Torah, really new Torah, it's not Torah. Right? The Gemara says, "Kol ma shetalmid vasik asid lechadish, hakol nitin l'Moshe Messinai." If it's a real chiddush, it's nicht good. If it's a real chiddush, if it's a chiddush is good, but if it's a real chiddush, it's nicht so good, because it means it's detached. So this is the diyuknei shtar b'chala olam. Wherever a Jew goes, we don't only mean geographically, of course. You mean spiritually, emotionally. Azil hacha v'hacha, but diyukna. There's the chaysim of Ein Sof, there's the chaysim of Elikus, that is shtoyer b'chala olam. And as Balatanya said, as we learned yesterday, that a person could go and chase his whole life so many different things, and he thinks he's chasing that, and he is chasing that, and yet he gets it, and there's still the aspiration to something. There's a depth, there's an unquenchable thirst and yearning that comes from a different type of void, and this void must be addressed. And this is the tabas hamelach. The tabas is the makif. It's the soiviv. The makif and the soiviv means that which may not be conscious in you, that it suits your capacity. You can identify what it is. You understand it. It's what we call l'mayla min atam v'das, l'mayla min aseichel. Even though it's your mamash, your essence.
Remember the muscle of a pillow?
Yeah.
And he's talking about the song.
A special mushal. It's a special mushal. And then when you hear the niggin, you're like, aha.
So it pertains in a person's life, like maybe one person's gone to davening, another's to learning, another to a certain type of learning, another one likes doing a certain type of festival, like that's their song, and they get that song, maybe.
Like coming home.
It's like coming home, yeah. It's
Music of the soul.
the music of my soul, yeah. The music of my soul.
We all like a lot of different niggin.
Yeah, and you know this is a niggin, but it's not my niggin. It's not my neshama's niggin. It's a niggin.
So how could it be that a Yid born as a Jew becomes very assimilated? Sometimes even when you speak with them, the Shema Torah, like an emistic Torah, doesn't sink, they don't feel it. It's too late.
Then we're going to get the Bible. It's the journey.
Doesn't born great artists be born being great artists? He's a little bit. Just someone learning, he knows something when he is.
Right.
So that's part of finding our soul, is to helping other people.
And sometimes the resistance and the negative is also part of this. I want to share with you a Maisa, I think. I heard it from Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, Rabbi Adin Even Yisrael. You know Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz from Yerushalayim, huh? The one who made the Gemara, the Steinsaltz Gemara, a lot of Svarim. He's a brilliant man. So I once heard from him many years ago. I can't say I remember the story verbatim, but the Teichen I remember quite well. It's very, very powerful message on this mahalach, on this gang. It was Shabbos morning. He was going to daven. He lived then in the Moshava HaGermanit, the German colony in Yerushalayim. And he davened Shabbos morning in the old Stadt, in the Rova, in the old city of Yerushalayim. There's a Rova, there's a shul called Tzemach Tzedek over there, that was built by the Tzemach Tzedek, the grandson of the Balatanya, in the 1800s. And it was actually the one shul that survived the Jordanian occupation of the old city of Jerusalem from 1948 to 1967. 19 years, Jews that had no access to the Kaisel and to the old city of Yerushalayim. When Israel liberated those territories in 1967, so the shuls were terribly disgraced, destroyed, and this shul remained intact, and they rededicated it and rebuilt other shuls ultimately. So he goes there Shabbos morning to daven. It's like a nice little shul over there in the old city, in the Rova. Huh? In the Jewish quarter, yeah, in the Altstadt, yeah. The Rova, they called the Rova. So he was walking from the German colony. I don't know if it's a 45-minute walk, 40-minute walk, an hour walk. It's a shtickle mahalach. And he meets somebody in the street, somebody he knew, he was acquainted. I think he identified him as a extremely left-wing Israeli artist. And you know that left-wing Israelis are really left-wing, and not like American left-wingers. American left-wingers, though America's catching up today. But Israeli left-wingers have a special chush because of this chaysim. Because of the chaysim, they have a... it's unique. So Shabbat Shalom, Mashlomcha, how are you? Efo halacha Rav, he says, where are you going? So Nilech lebet Knesset. Going to daven Shabbos morning. It was early in the morning, wherever it time. He says, Efo kvodah halech, where are you going? So he says that in Yerushalayim there's a place you could still get bacon and eggs. Yeah. We'll cover Shabbos Kodesh. He makes sure to go to this place where you can eat davarach, you can eat chazer for Shabbos. Okay, he says, what are you doing for lunch? He says, for breakfast, what are you doing for lunch? He says, there's a place you can get shrimp and lobster. So the covered Shabbos, he goes to that place. And for Shalashudas, for Shalashudas is a place where you can get real yayin nesach. So that's where he goes. What do you do in between? So in between, he says he makes sure to go to the beach with books, so he can be over on Tiltal, Dalet Amos, carry his books and read them and so forth. So Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz smiles, and he says 3 words, Ani mekanebecha. I'm jealous of you. So the guy says, Vaday shata mekanebi. Of course you're jealous. You're going to a boring shul to do your religious things. I'm a free person. I can do what I want. Of course you're jealous of me. I don't have the burden, the yoke of religion. So he says, I'm not the reason. He actually grew up as a secular boy. Rav Steinsaltz. He became a Baal Tshuva later. He says, it's not the reason. He says, so why are you jealous of me? So he said, I'm jealous of how deeply Shabbos affects you. I can't say that about myself. I go to Shul, I come back, another Shabbos. He says, for you, Shabbos affects you so deeply. You can't just stay home and do nothing. Relax, read, sit on the couch. No. You have to look for a place with bacon and for shrimp and for non-kosher wine. You have to make sure to violate Shabbos as much as possible. So he says, I think it would be true to say, Shegam ata shomer Shabbat. You also observe the Shabbos. You just do it in a different, untraditional way. You also commemorate Shabbos. You just do it in an untraditional way. And I think you do it even more than me. That's what he told them. The Hest. But the Yid became a Shomer Shabbos. The Yid became a Shomer Shabbos. Because he noticed from this itself, what's this resistance? You don't, weitergegangen. That's why you'll see very often the Jewish atheists, I often say this in lectures, the best way to say it is, Jewish atheists deny God with a religious fervor. An atheist is supposed to be not religious. But we have today Jewish atheists, they're very religious. They're religious in their atheism. But if you're a real atheist, where's this passion coming from? An atheist, by definition, I guess that's an agnostic. Really, the definition of atheism is a little complicated, because how do you know not? You don't know yes, but the passion, where's the passion coming from? It's almost like I'm trying to get rid of something that's very deep in me. So the Chiddush here, the Nekuda that Balatanya is teaching us here, which became a Yisoid, a tremendous fundamental idea in Yiddishkeit Bechlal, and emphasized especially in Teres HaNister, and by the Baal Shem Tov and his students, and in Teres Chabad, is this Nekuda that the Chosem of an Ein Sof is imprinted in the very core of his psyche, even if it's not consciously understood and processed and accessed and explained. And that's why it's called a tabas, it's called makif, it's called soiviv, it's called lamayla min aseichel, it's called lamayla min tamvedas, it's called the chosim. I'm not indifferent to it. I once heard from Eli Wiesel, Allah Shalom. He was a Holocaust survivor. He came from Vishnitz. Came from a Vishnitz family in Sigit. He went to Auschwitz. So he used to quote all that. So he once said a line. He said, it's a deep line. He said, Jews can love, I'll quote him as he put it. He said it verbatim. Jews can love God. Jews can hate God. Jews can't ignore God. They can love or they can hate. They can't ignore. They can't ignore. What is the, why can't they, why you can't ignore? It's like when you're married to somebody. You can love your spouse, you can have a lot of issues with your spouse. You can't ignore them. You can try to ignore them. Good luck. It's going to last for a few hours. It's going to last. I grew up in a house. My father was an editor of a Yiddish newspaper, the Allgemeiner Journal. So we had a lot of Yiddishisten in our home. There was an era for a few decades, more than a few decades, where in America there were many Yiddishisten Jews who spoke, secular Jews, many of them socialists. They spoke a brilliant Yiddish, and their whole culture was revolved around Yiddish, but nothing to do with religion. So this is called the Arbeiterring. You heard of the Arbeiterring? Nobody knows about it anymore. The Workmen's Circle. The Farvitz was a daily Yiddish newspaper, socialist newspaper. At one point it had 250,000 readers. You have to understand the power. 250,000 readers daily. This is before internet. It was your one source of news to the world. So my father had a lot of interactions with them. He worked with them. They were an interesting breed. All Yiddish, but despised Judaism. Yiddish on Yiddishkeit. And it was a whole culture with literature, rich literature. At one point they had 600 Jewish schools, Yiddish schools. 600 Yiddish schools. Today there's maybe 3 left.
States?
In the States, South America, yeah, in the States and Canada, yeah. Peretz schools, Yud Lamed Peretz, Shalom Aleichem schools, all these Yiddishisten schools. It was a whole world of hundreds of thousands of Jews, maybe millions. Well, nothing remained because their children already, assimilated into larger culture. What should they speak Yiddish in America? What's the value of Yiddish? If you're living in Williamsburg, you'll speak Yiddish. You're living in Monsey, you're living in Bar Park, you speak Yiddish. Yeah, but what is the value for them to speak Yiddish when they wanted to integrate?
They still have offices in New York City.
Yeah, YIVO. You have the Yiddishist offices, yeah. A lot of money left over there, yeah. Okay. So I knew a lot of them well because growing up they would come to the house. They were an interesting breed, very interesting breed. And so I was once speaking to the head of the Farvitz Sefain, which was the forward. It later converted into the forward. So he shared with me they used to do an annual ball, a banquet, like a dinner, a festive evening for all of the employees and all of the members of the Workmen's Circle, hundreds and hundreds of people. So I said, "Did you have a date for the ball? When did you do it?" He said, "Yeah, the night of Yom Kippur." The night of Yom Kippur. I said, what's the night of Yom Kippur? Why do you do it on Tu B'Shvat? It's a Yom Tov. Not going to do it on Tu B'Shvat. No, why didn't you do it Yud Zayin Shvat? Why didn't you do it Tes Adar? If Yom Kippur doesn't mean it, choose. It happened random, like Haman's Geidel fell out on Yud Gimel Adar. It happened randomly. They had to do something on Yom Kippur. A Jew needs to observe Yom Kippur. Because there's a chosim, there's a psachosim. He has to observe Yom Kippur. He doesn't know how to observe it.
The day has a lot of koyach. The day has a lot of koyach.
And there's a gravitational pull. Sometimes it's in a positive way, and sometimes it's like, I'm not going to fast Yom Kippur like my Zayda used to do. I'm going to eat on Yom Kippur. But that way I maintain a relationship. Negativity is maintaining a relationship. We know in psychology, sometimes when you want to be connected to somebody, you have to continue to hate them. It's nebach that this is the way you have to connect. But sometimes I can't let go of you. But I can't love you because there's so much pain, so I have to hate you. But hating you, there's an expression of the Mittler Rebbe, the depth of hate is always commensurate with the depth of love. The emotions that you have towards your mother is like no emotions you have towards anybody else. Or the emotions you have towards your children or towards your spouse. Why? Sometimes very negative, because it touches you in the essence of your soul, but you never made peace with it, you never embraced it. That's what the pshat simeni kechoisem alebecha. And this is not something that he can always consciously identify and clarify. If he would know exactly what his void is, what he's looking for. He doesn't know what he's looking for. He just knows this is not good, this is not good, this is not good, this is not good. He needs another revolution, and something else, and something more, and something else. But what you're looking for is not all of this. You're looking for something else. You're looking for something deeper. Just you don't know. Your mammers don't know. So somebody who doesn't see the pnimiyus of a yid, just sees the chitzonius, will look at this person and say, he's the furthest from Shabbos. This guy's the furthest from Shabbos. Somebody who understands the pnimiyus says, no, he's also connected to Shabbos. He's connected to Shabbos. There's a Gemara in Maseches Chagiga in Bavli and in Yerushalmi even more Barichas. Same Nakuda. The Gemara says there's a Maisa Toner Rabbana Hafla de Kamaisa Chagiga Daf Tesvav. We once spoke about the story from another angle about the names, but here I want to focus on one Nakuda, that there was Elisha ben Abuyah. Elisha ben Abuyah is the only Tana we know who went OTD, as they call it today. Yeah, over the derech Kitzitz ben Atiyas. He completely left Yiddishkeit. Now, this was quite news at the time, because Elisha ben Abuyah wasn't a kid who was ADD, ADHD, PDD, thrown out of 9 schools by the time he was bar mitzvah, and then thrown out of the house and ended up in footsteps. Elisha ben Abuyah was considered a Chav of Rabbi Akiva, a Rebbe of Rabbi Meir. He was like Maamer from the Gedolei Adar, from the greatest generation. He was a Gon Olam, a huge Talmud. I mean, he was like from la creme de la creme, and he left. So this was, you understand what it did. It wasn't a regular story. And it's the only, we know, there were hundreds of Tanoim and Amirayim. We know of only one. Elisha ben Abuyah made an impact. It made such an impact that they don't call him by his name anymore. They call him Acher, the other one. So there's a story there that Reb Meir was once giving a shir on Shabbos. The Gemara says. And Elisha ben Abuyah was horseback riding on Shabbos, and he came by, and they told Reb Meir, your Rebbe is outside. He stopped the shir, he went out, and he started to follow Elisha ben Abuyah. Elisha ben Abuyah started to go horseback riding. And the mayor was running after him, and he was giving a shir as he was horseback riding. At some point, Elisha ben Abuyah told the mayor, go back. I was counting the steps of the horse. It's Tchum Shabbos. You're not let it go any further. So the mayor said, you also come back. He meant both things, come back and come back. Elisha ben Abuyah said, I can't come back. Why? The way the Yerushalmi says it was once Yom Kippur, Shabbos. I was horseback riding on the Harabayas, around the place of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, when there used to be the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Harabayas used to be a real mountain. Adrian lowered the mountain by 1,000 feet or more. But it used to be a har like this, a real huge mountain. And he was horseback riding. It's a great place for horseback riding. And it was after the Churban Beis HaMikdash, a few decades. On Yom Kippur, on Shabbos, he was horseback riding where? In the place where there used to be Kodesh HaKadoshim. Now, he knew where the Kodesh HaKadoshim was. He was probably alive when the Beis HaMikdash was still there. And I heard a baskel. And the baskel, I heard from behind the curtain, I heard Hashem say, Shuvu bonim shoivavim. Chutz me'acher. All children are welcome back, besides Acher. So I can't come back. This is what he tells the mayor. I can't come back. I heard a baskel. Yom Kippur shechali is b'Shabbos. Shuvu bonim shoivavim chutz me'acher. Now when you think about the story, yeah, there's a whole shir Rabbi Yosheber Soloveitchik once gave on this. What's this Shuva Bonim Shem Chutz Me'acher? How do you throw out a yid from tshuva? Every Jew can do tshuva. And why is there a baskel coming to him? Who goes horseback riding in Yom Kippur and his baskels from Hashem? People in Shul don't hear baskels. This guy was horseback riding on Yom Kippur. It's talking not an Isser min Torah, but it's an Isser min Rabbanan. B'sechta Beitzah. And he's hearing a baskel. Shuva Bonim Shevavim Chutz Me'acher. And he wasn't planning to do tshuva. The pshat is that the Rebbeinu Shalom was telling him, you're not an acher, you're not an alien, you're a child. V'haraya, look at what you're doing. It's Yom Kippur, you want to go horseback riding. So go to Montana. Go to Eilat. Go up north, take a hike, and go horseback riding. Why do you have to come horseback riding on Yom Kippur in the base Kodesh HaKadoshim? The pshat is your heart is gravitating to Kodesh HaKadoshim because it's Yom Kippur. Instead of embracing it in a positive way, you're doing it through showing that you don't get nispol from Yom Kippur. You're going to go horseback riding. Zestach that you're a child, you're not an acher. Shuva bonam shevavim chutz me'acher. So explain why in Bavli it says chutz me'acher, in Yerushalmi it says chutz me'Elisha ben Abuyah, because really the Baskel said chutz me'acher, but he heard chutz me'Elisha ben Abuyah. The Baskel was telling him, you're not an acher, you're a child, and he heard that it's Elisha ben Abuyah, because for him, Elisha ben Abuyah and acher became synonymous. It's all the same nekuda. That the yuknei shtoyer b'chala olam afal gav the azul hacha v'hacha. You can go here and you can go there. That the yoikin, the imprint is a shtoyer b'chala olam. Remains forever.
So that's the source of Reform Judaism? Why people flock to their temples, especially Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah?
Yeah. A Jew feels something Yom Kippur. I once heard from Rabbi Manis Friedman, he said, imagine somebody stands Sunday, yeah? I'm not telling you to do this at home, but just imagine somebody stands Sunday outside of a church. This is not homework, I'm just theoretically. And a fellow Christian comes out, and you say, hi, good morning, good afternoon, how are you? Beautiful Sunday day in New York. How's your day? Awesome. We're coming out of the church. Tell me, do you believe in the Lord? Of course I believe in the Lord. If I wasn't believing in the Lord, why did I just stand there 3 hours screaming hallelujah? Of course I believe in the Lord. Okay. Friday, a person stands in front of a mosque. Somebody comes out. Good afternoon. Have a good weekend. Do you believe in Muhammad? Of course I believe in Muhammad. Why was I now kneeling for 5 hours? Why was I kneeling if I don't believe in Muhammad? Why did I just finish fasting a whole month of Ramadan? Why am I praying 5 times a day? And why am I soon going to Mecca if I don't believe in Muhammad? Of course I believe in Muhammad. Then go to a Buddhist ashram. And some Buddhist monk comes out and asks him, do you believe in nirvana? Of course I believe in nirvana. Why have I been doing transcendental meditation for 35 years? I want to have one and all in one. Of course I believe in nirvana. And then go to a Hindu monastery where a Hindu comes out and asks them, do you believe in karma? Of course I believe in karma. Why have I had this worm in my garden for the last 49 years if I don't believe in karma? Now he says, go to Temple Emmanuel on 5th Avenue on Yom Kippur. Okay? A Jew comes out, takes off his yarmulke, I don't know if he was wearing, waves down a taxi, hails a taxi. Say, wait, before you go into the taxi, tell me, you believe in God? Me? Me? Who do you think I am, some Meshugana? Of course not. What do you mean? But you're coming from the temple. What does that have to do with anything? So you believe in God? No. Haven't you heard of Charles Darwin? Of evolution? I don't believe in God. Natural selection, I believe in. I'm a graduate of Columbia University. So why do you go to the temple? He says, because it's Yom Kippur. He says, but you don't believe in God? Of course not. So why Yom Kippur you go to the temple? And he looks at you straight. He says, a Yom Kippur, a Jew goes to the temple. And it makes sense. It makes sense. What is that? Because that's the Chiddush. Judaism is not a religion. We call Judaism a religion. There's Christianity, there's Islam, there's so many types of... And there's a religion called Judaism. And the question is, if it's true, what's not true? The Vart is Judaism is not a religion. You can't be an atheist and be called a Christian. You're not. By definition, if you don't believe, you can't be an atheist and be called a Muslim. You can't deny the Buddha and be called a Buddhist. And yet, you could be an atheist and a Pashay Yisrael and you're called a Jew. Vizag the Gemara in Sanhedrin about Achan, Daf Mem Dalet, Afal Pi Shechata, Yisrael. And this is not stam chata. Acham was Yenet Tzatska. Moshe said, don't take. He took Yeshua, said, don't take. 3 Chramim in the Gemara says, Gili Arayis with Avodah Zarah. Acham was a real Tzatska. Beloshen Saginoy. What do you mean you're a Jew? You don't believe in anything. The pshat is that the relationship of a Jew and Judaism, if Judaism was just a religion, either you're religious or you're not religious. So if you're religious, you're a Jew. If you're not religious, you're a goy. There are taka people, when I came to Monsey, I didn't know this because I didn't grow up with it. But somebody was talking to me once and he says, my brother is a goy. My brother is a goy. So I didn't understand what he means. So in my naivete, I started to think what happened. Did his mother convert later? And it was interesting because he came from a very prominent Hasidic family. So his father married a non-Jew and they had a baby and then his mother converted and they had him. So I'm like, wow, this is going to be a juicy story. I'm like looking forward to the story of how it happened, how his father met his shiksa, right, in Sweden somewhere. I'm waiting for the story. Because in my simplicity, if his brother is a guy, he means he's a guy, he's not Jewish. And it took me like a few minutes to realize, no, his mother is echte, ehrliche, jüdische, heilige, chassidische, tznius, gefreu. That nor Yiddish. The guy that Yiddish, yeah. And then I realized it's not even a Shabbos guy, it's a Zunte guy, mit a Monte guy, mit a Dinste guy. Because the definition of a guy by him is, if he's not doing what the family does, or he's not following Torah mitzvahs, he's a guy. What is it based on? It's based on a very simple equation. The definition of a Jew is, you're religious. If you're not religious, you're not a Jew. So my brother became a guy. But we see that the halacha doesn't see it that way. Afal pi shechata Yisrael. Even a Jew that shmadzich, forget about a Jew who's secular, a Jew who shmadzich. If he's mekadesh an isha, if he betroths a woman, lahalacha, she needs a get. If he's not a Jew, if a Jewish woman marries a non-Jew, she doesn't need a get. It's not kedusha. Here it's called kedusha. It's called kedusha. So even though the gabi different halachas, wine or other things, will have the status of a non-Jew, lepoil mamish, kiddush of kedusha. So what's the Havana here? The Havana here is that Judaism and the relationship of Judaism and a Jew is not a religion. Judaism is like the color of his soul. You can't change the color of your soul, change the color of your eyes. Judaism and a Jew are essentially connected. It's a soul identity. I can observe it, I could not observe it. I could be aware of it, I could not be aware of it. But I can't not be it. It is who I am. It's my spiritual genetic composition. I could say I'm not this person, but it won't change the fact that this is who I am. This is my essential, innate identity. A person could decide one morning that he's a horse. You could decide it, right? And you could live that way. There are people who decide it, and they live that way. They live like horses. You could decide you're a behemoth and live that way. But it's not going to change the fact that you're not a behemoth, you're a person. Not that there's anything wrong in being a behemoth. A behemoth is a wonderful thing. It's just you have to know what it is. There's a bird and there's a mammal. And it's not about judging better, worse. Every nivra in this world has its parameters. The rabbi once from Sydney sent me an email. An interesting email he got. Somebody sent him a question. He grew up in a Jewish home in Sydney. I guess very secular, somewhat traditional. And he never liked Jews. He didn't like them. So when they started to date, he told his mother, I don't want to date Jewish girls. I want to date non-Jewish girls. And that's what he did. And he married a non-Jew. And he never even told her that he's Jewish. Because he didn't want to observe anything Jewish in the house. Not Chanukah, and not Yom Kippur, and not Rosh Hashanah. In other words, mamish, no vestige. They have children, the children are Jewish. He never even told them they come from a Jewish family. Huh? He's Jewish. She's not yet. Yeah. And he sent me the letter, he writes that recently, he knows that his parents have a plot in a cemetery for the family. For him too. But he doesn't want to be buried with Jews. So he bought himself a plot in the Christian cemetery so that when he dies, he's going to be buried with non-Jews. So like this letter is getting more inspiring by the minute. What's his question from the rabbi? He says, I have one problem. I still feel Jewish. So I want to know if Judaism has a tradition through which I could officially become not Jewish. For example, baptism, they sprinkle the holy water on you, and you become a Baptist. Does Judaism have a way where they could sprinkle some water on me and un-Jewish size me? Because it's really bothering me. I really don't like it. I want to get rid of it completely. And I want to know if Judaism has such a ritual. And he says, thank you for your help with this question. I know it's a question that's not usual for you, probably. You don't usually receive such questions. Now, think about this question. Think about it. The man ran away as far as possible. He's not even ready to be buried after death with Jews. Ad kedei kach. For whatever reason, I don't know if there was some pain or some abuse. I don't know the reason. I don't know the background of the story. But something in Judaism that he can't stand, he can't tolerate. And yet, he's coming to a rabbi, and he wants to know if Judaism has a ritual to make him officially not Jewish. But if Judaism is fake, phony, and fraud, let's say we have a ritual. Let's say we could sprinkle on you chamishim sa'ah, mayim she'uvim, and make you not Jewish. Line of commit is the whole a joke. You're running away from it. I wrote back to him. So there's good news and bad news. The bad news is that Judaism has no ritual through which you could become not Jewish. That's the bad news. The good news is you're as Jewish as Moses, as King David, as King Solomon, as Rabbi Akiva, as Rashi, as Maimonides. You're as Jewish as all of these personalities. And you may not be as knowledgeable and as observant of them, but you're as Jewish. And because it's who you are, instead of hating it, try to learn how to make peace with it, how to embrace it. Because look at your letter. You ran away as far as possible, but you're still looking to Judaism to help you disconnect. And the funny thing is, you think it's normal. It's sane, it's rational. I once had a teacher, he's already in the Olam HaEmes of Melech Tzvibel, he once said a story. I don't know if it's a real story or not, but it's certainly an interesting story. Moshe Mendelssohn was the father of Reformed Jewry, Moses Mendelssohn. He himself, an interesting person. They say he used to daven Shachas, Mincha, Ma'ariv, but he had children, and most of them converted to Christianity. And he lived in Dessau, in Germany. And so he had a Talmud. And he was the father of many of the Reform leaders and rabbis of the first generation in Germany. He had a student who completely left Yiddishkeit. And he once came to an old Rebbe of his. And he asked him how he's doing. And he said that he's doing very well. But he has an inner void that he can't get rid of. He can't get rid of it. So he said, Avada, because you're a Jew. So he says, how do I get rid of it? So he says, you need more tumah in you. If you have more tumah, you'll get rid of it. He says, how do I do that? So he says, you have to drink the Negelwasser water. You wash morning Negelwasser, so it takes off the Ruach HaTumah. Drink that water, you'll digest the tumah, and then you'll get rid of it. You'll be a happy person. This is what his Rebbe suggests to him. So the way he told the story was, the Jew took it seriously, and he went home. And he started to drink Negelwasser water to be able to ingest the tumah. And guess what? It was like a drug. It was like a pill. He started to feel better. He filled menuchas hanefesh. So he became a frumah Yid. He realized this is the power of the Negelwasser. Became an Ehrlich Yid. It's all the same nekuda. The nekuda is that the yukna shtar b'chala olam. Afal gav the azal, a person dreht sich here, there, dreht sich. There's a lot of hakafas a person makes in life, but the diyukin, there's the choysem, simeni ke choysem alibecha. And therefore, ultimately, as long as he doesn't fill that void, and the void is not a chitzayni, is the kavoid that he joins people who look a certain way. The void is a very deep one, it's a very internalized one, it's that niggin of Ein Sof, that nigun of infinity. So because the chaysim is there, it also can't be obliterated, because it's l'mayla, and that's the chiddush of makif. If it was an inyan of pnimi, then if you don't feel it, you don't have it. The idea of soiviv means, even if you don't feel it, it doesn't mean you don't have it. That's the difference of mamale and soiviv. Mamale means it depends on your experience of it. As much as you experience it, that's how much you have it. The tabas, which represents makif, means it's above you, it surrounds you. What's trying to surround you? It's not there because you feel that it's there. It's there because it's there even beyond your feeling. In fact, the fact that you don't feel it is not because it's not there, it's because it's deeper than your feelings. It's much deeper than your feeling. So the filter that allows for you to feel things doesn't contain it because it's deeper. So it's not there, it's less. Makif means it's there more. So the fact that I don't feel it doesn't mean it's not here. There's things I don't feel it, it's not here. That's mamale. Soiviv means it has nothing to do with that. It's essentially here. If it's essentially here, it has a tremendous impact. It has a tremendous impact on the person. No, I'll be Messiah with a story. I heard this story first from my father, Allah Shalom, many years ago. He heard it from the person himself. Then I read it in an autobiography that he wrote. I saw the story there also. It's a very deep story. There was a Jew in Israel. He was known as Zalman Shazar. Zalman Shazar was the third president of Israel. The first one was Chaim second one was Yitzchak ben Tzvi, and I believe the third one was Zalman Shazar. He became a president in 1963, and he was a president for 10 years, till 1973. He was a real left-wing Jew, a scholar, a speaker, a poet, a socialist, left-wing. He was the first education minister in Israel, secular Jew. His real name wasn't Shazar. His real name was Rubashov. And he came from the Lita, he came from Lithuania, from a little town called Demir. Today it became very famous because the Mir Yeshiva came from there. The Mir Yeshiva, the city is not called Mir, the city is called Demir. The Mir Yeshiva is not the Mir Yeshiva, it's Demir. The name of the yeshiva is Demir, right? It's not the Mir, just for Jewish virtual, Jewish, what is it called? Jewish information, yeah. So he came. His family came from that town. He was named after the Balatanya. Shneur Zalman. He was named to the Balatanya because his Zayda was a Chabad Chassid. His Elter Zayda was a Talmud of the Balatanya. So they named him for this Balatanya. But this was the generation, early 1900s, late 1800s, where most Russian, Lithuanian Jewry left Yiddishkeit. People don't realize, but 50-60% left Yiddishkeit, including him, he himself. And he became a socialist Zionist, which was very compelling then. I mean, hundreds of thousands of Jewish youths were allured into the visions of this grand utopia that will transform the world and turn it into a paradise. Karl Marx's socialism and Theodor Herzl's secular Zionism and the combination of both. And this swept through Eastern Europe. And now is not the time to elaborate on the history, but it allured, it brought in, it spoke to millions of Jewish youth, because many of them didn't see a future within Judaism and the Blat Gemara. For them, this was just a perpetuation of 2,000 years of persecution, and they were looking for new isms. Every day there was a new ism. That's right. Zalman Shazar was 15 years old. So later he changed his name from Rubashov to Shazar, because Rubashov doesn't sound Israeli, it's not Sabra. It's a European, Eastern European name, Rubashov. Yiddish name, Rubashov. Shazar is more Zionist sounding, and Shazar is an acronym of Shneur Zalman Rubashov, Shazar. So it's called Zalman Shazar, that's how he's known. He was going up to Eretz Yisrael, it was then called Palestine. In the early 1900s, this is, he was born probably 1890, so he was around 15 years old. This is right before the First World War, or I think shortly before the First World War. He was a young teenager. He was making aliyah. He would be from the chalutzim. You know what the chalutzim are, yeah? The workers to build the land. And he really integrated, and he became the first education minister and then the president of Israel. And he was very well known in his day. The last Shabbos before leaving to Palestine, to Eretz Yisrael, he decided he's going to go visit his Zayda. His Zayda was a Chassidish Yid. Zayda was a Chabad Chassid living in the Mir. And like a very, a Fatzaitish Yid, a real, ehrlich, fine Yirish Shamayim. And he decided one Shabbos, simply out of respect to the Zayda, he's going to be with him, and he's going to follow that Shabbos, he's going to be with the Zayda completely. Now, despite his personal persuasion, he's going to be there fully. His grandfather was excited to see him, obviously, and he put on his yarmulke, and he went in, out of Shabbos. So he describes this. My father told it to me when I was a kid. I think he heard it from Zalman Shazar. He went to the mikveh with the Zayda before Shabbos, and they went to Shul early, and they sang Shir Hashirim together. And he said his Zayda learnt with him Lekutei Torah from the Balatanya, and then they got ready for Kabbalah Shabbos, and they davened. And he said it was so beautiful, the old shtetl, simple Jews. Most Jews over there were elder. They were singing Lechadoidi, and they went home. He says at the table there was nothing but nigunim and divrei Torah of a Zayda, and then Shabbos morning they woke up early and they learned. So they went to the mikveh again, and they went to Shul, and he learned with him again Lekutei Torah from the Balatanya, and they davened, and the whole Shabbos, it was just a Shabbos in a very, very observant niche, in a cocoon in the Mir, and Mitchal Shuddus, and the whole Shabbos they fabreng together and spoke, and the Zayda loved the fact that the Einokel was there. The Zayda was a Talmud Chacham, Mitzvah Shabbos, Malava Malka, Sunday morning Shachris, Pas Shachris, breakfast, and then he was taking there were no trains in the Mir, but there was a place where the Balagolas were, the coaches, and you rented a coach, and he took you to a nearby larger city where there was a train station. He would take a train, ultimately would bring him to Turkey, and from Turkey he would get to Eretz Yisrael. So after breakfast, Sunday morning, the Zayda took him with his chamadan, with his suitcase to the Balagolas, to the coaches over there in the Mir. Over there, the Zayda told him, Azai, before he left, he said, we didn't speak about this a whole Shabbos, but now you're leaving. And I know that you're going your own way. I want to tell you something. I want to tell you a tradition that I have. And I never heard this before. This I heard through my father, through Zalman Shazar, that he heard from his Zayda. We have a Messiah. There are 3 types of songs in life. There's a niggin that you hear it, and you like it, but you forget it. You forget it, and that's it. There's another niggin, you hear it, and you like it, but it doesn't stop playing in your head, like a mosquito buzzing. You hear a niggin, like the CD plays over and over and over again, and it drives you crazy. You want to get it out of your head, it comes back. So both of those nigunim are not connected to your neshama. The first one you forgot, the second one is driving you crazy. The third niggin, you hear it, it becomes ingrained in you, and it doesn't drive you crazy. It's not always playing, but whenever you need it, you remember it, and you could sing it, and it's available. That's the niggin that's connected to your shayrish neshama. Your soul is rooted in that niggin. And then he said to him, by us it's a Messiah, that Chasidei Chabad, their neshama is rooted in the Alter Rebbe's niggin. The niggin of the Dalet Bavas. You know the niggin. Ya 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 ya. So he said, we have a tradition that Chabad's Chassidim's neshama is rooted in the Alter Rebbe's niggin. But mainly he said, Shnei Zalman, and you're named after him. So I want you to know, you're going to go through life. You're going to go through life. At different stages of your life, if you see that you forgot this niggin, it means you're disconnected from yourself, from your roots, because your soul's roots are this niggin. So if you forget this niggin, it means you're disconnected from your roots. Don't forget this niggin. That's what he told him. And then he said, it says, Al yipoter adam mechaveri elam etach dvar halacha. The Gemara says in Brachas. So let me tell you halacha. He told him over a Rambam in Hilchas Trumas about Eretz Yisrael. He asked him a contradiction to another Rambam. Tried to answer the question, find the halacha. He gave him a kiss on his forehead, and he told him goodbye. He was a Jew in his 80s. Zalman Shazar said he came to Eretz Yisrael, and a few months later he got a telegram from home that the Zayda passed away, very shortly after. So he continues the story, and he said those words stayed with me. He was completely not connected to Yiddishkeit. But he's at every major juncture in my life, whenever there was a fork in my life, he says, Ad hayoym hazeh, as the secular president of a secular state, a Jewish state, but secular, when I have to make a serious decision, I have two ways to go in life, and I'm not sure which is right. I ask everybody to leave the room, I close the door, and I sing the Alter Rebbe's niggin. If the niggin comes to me, I feel good and wholesome. And if the niggin doesn't come to me, then I know I have to stop everything and make a cheshbon hanefesh and go back all the way to the source. See what's happening in my shayrish. And this niggin has escorted me ad hayoym hazeh. This is what Zalman Shazar said. In the later years, even though he was much older than him, he started to come to the Lubavitcher Rebbe in Brooklyn. He came quite a few times as president. And he became much, the Rebbe brought him very, very close to Yiddishkeit, much, much closer. A little while before he died, he came here to New York, and it was Yud Beis Tammuz. Yud Beis Tammuz is a big Yom Tov in Lubavitch, because it's the Chag HaGeula of the Rebbe Rayatz, who was arrested by Stalin and sentenced to death, and he was saved. So it's a big day. So Zalman Shazar, who came from Russia, he knew the matzav there, what they went through, what Jews and Chassidim went through in Russia. He came to the Fabrengen in Yud Beis Tammuz. I saw the video of this, and I heard this from people, but nobody knew the reason, because I read about this years later, and I don't know if this was bekavana or not bekavana. At the end of the Fabrengen, the Rebbe said they should sing the Alter Rebbe's niggin. Good, which they used to sing at different occasions. At the end of the, when it came to the high part, before they started, there was a menagin, Rabbi Yoel Khan, he would start the nigunim. So the Rebbe went like this, that they should sing the climax Alter Rebbe's niggin 10 times. Which goes and goes, you know which part? Ya 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 ya. Now this is a niggin the Balatanya made. It has 4 stanzas, and it's mechuven keneged the Daled Olamus. It starts with Asiya, then you go to Yitzira, then you go to Bria, and then this stanza is Atzilus, the high. And then they all come back and unite. It's a very, very, it's called a niggin mechuven. It's a very, very, it's considered his niggin. Even though he made a lot of nigunim, like Avinu Malkeinu and Kol Doidi and many other nigunim. But this, so they sang the niggin 10 times, the high part. And Shazar was sitting there. So I was a baby, so I can't tell you I remember, but I saw, they have a video of it, so I saw it. And I saw that he was sitting, and he was completely like in a trance. He was like completely transformed. Now the Olam just thought, he came from Israel, it's like a shmaka niggin, thousands of people were sitting it. I don't know if there was anyone in the crowd who understood the meaning of that story. Here was a man, he was already in his 80s, shortly before his death. He ran away to the other extreme from Judaism and certainly Chassidus. And at the end of his life, he's sitting by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who was an Einikel of the Alter Rebbe. His name is Shnei Zalman, surrounded by Chassidim in New York, and they're singing the Alter Rebbe's niggin. It was an incredible, incredible moment. The Rebbe was singing, he was singing, the Olam was singing, and it represented, this powerful chosim, the stamp, the seal that sits in the subconscious of a person's soul. And you can go here, you can go there, you can go there. But when you have a pnimiyisdik approach, so then the connection is never lost, and it remains for eternity. The same is true in every person's own life. You have to know. You go here, you go there. Medreitzach. People get lost. People get overwhelmed. But the chosim never goes away. The diyukin, the chosim is maybe not here, but the diyukin of the chosim is imprinted in your heart forever.
This class is brought to you by the yeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.